Quiero pedirle ahora al doctor Maher Nana. El doctor Maher Nana es de la Alianza por los Derechos Humanos en Siria. Ha viajado constantemente a las zonas de guerra de Siria para llevar ayuda humanitaria y asistencia médica a la población que está sufriendo allá. Lo hemos conocido ya durante 3 años de trabajo y nos impresiona su calidad humana y su compromiso con el cambio para Siria y con el bienestar del pueblo sirio. El doctor Nana constantemente deja a su familia acá y va hasta allá, hasta Siria, entrar a la zona de peligro e intentar ayudar a sus compatriotas. Dr. Maher Nana from the Syrian Alliance for Human Rights. Over the past few years, we have worked with Dr. Nana and have seen his commitment to the Syrian people, his compassion, and his willingness to repeatedly enter the war zone to bring humanitarian assistance and to bring aid to his suffering people, leaving his family here in order to be able to aid the terrible crisis going on in Syria. Dr. Nana.
Thank you very much. I would like first to thank the Institute for Cuban and Cuban American Studies, and I would like to thank all of you for giving the time to listen to us, to our experience in our struggle for freedom and dignity and democracy. First of all, I think I'm the one who's going to be talking about the most tragic event out of all of those events that's happening in this world today.
Let me translate for you. Or you want to understand? Lamentablemente, yo hoy tengo que hablar sobre uno de los escenarios más trágicos en el mundo en estos días. Yo quisiera, antes de continuar con el doctor Nana, acaba de llegar una delegación de estudiantes venezolanos que han salido, son líderes estudiantiles que han salido brevemente para un testimonio ante el Congreso americano, que regresan ahora a Venezuela a continuar con la lucha. Bienvenidos a este foro, hermanos. Estamos con ustedes. Ellos se llaman Roderick Navarro, Gabriel Lugo y Ana Karina García. Bienvenidos a este foro. These are Venezuelan students who are returning to Venezuela for the struggle. Dr. Nana, please continue. I'm sorry.
So, does this work? Okay. So, to start with, I'd like to give you some background about the Syrian revolution, how it started, and how a very small, amazing event can trigger one of the most greatest revolution in our lifetime.
Yo quiero hablar sobre cómo empezó la revolución siria y cómo un incidente aparentemente pequeño dio origen al evento más importante de nuestras vidas en Siria.
In March of 2011, a few children, middle school age, they wrote on the wall, the world of freedom, along with anti-Assad regime slogans. Those kids were arrested by the security forces. They were tortured. Their families went to the security center asking for their release, and they were told, you can go home and forget about those kids.
En marzo de 2011, unos niños pintaron en una ciudad siria la palabra libertad en una pared y consignas en contra del régimen de Assad. Esos niños fueron arrestados, torturados y asesinados, y cuando los padres fueron a buscarlos, le dijeron a los padres que se olvidaran de sus hijos, las fuerzas de seguridad del régimen.
From that day and for the next 6 months, the Syrian people have risen all over Syria using peaceful demonstration and protest.
Desde ese día y durante los próximos 6 meses, por toda Siria, el pueblo sirio se levantó de forma no violenta, de forma pacífica en contra del régimen.
The Syrian people have formed what we call it the local coordinating councils. Those councils are basically small organizations in each area on a small scale. In the neighborhood, the school friends, the university friends form local councils and organize their work how to protest against the government.
Los manifestantes comenzaron a organizar en cada barrio, en cada ciudad, consejos locales de coordinación, donde las organizaciones de la sociedad civil se agruparon para llevar a cabo las protestas y la resistencia no violenta.
Those councils were very successful because they were built on trust. Those guys who get together, they trust each other, and they know that they are from the same neighborhood or from the same school. At a certain point, we have more than 100 protesting points in Syria. At one event, we were able to gather 500,000 protesters in one city.
Esos consejos de coordinación fueron muy exitosos. Se lograron establecer hasta 100 puntos simultáneos de protesta por toda Siria, y en una ocasión, en una ciudad, logramos movilizar más de 500,000 de personas en una protesta contra el régimen.
This massive protest of 500,000 people, it's been verified and witnessed. It's been videotaped. You can search it on Hama, the city of Hama protest. Ambassador Robert Ford and Eric Chevalier, then the U.S. ambassador and the French ambassador to Syria, went to Hama and visited those protesters, and they verified their peaceful movement.
Ustedes pueden ver esto está verificado, está en internet, fue en la ciudad de Hama, y el embajador americano y el embajador francés fueron a Hama y vieron esta manifestación de más de 500,000 de personas pacíficas por el cambio.
We all, as all the Syrian people, thought within few months of civil resistance and peaceful demonstrations, the international world will put enough pressure to oust Assad, and liberty and dignity and democracy will prevail in Syria.
Estábamos convencidos que después de muchos meses de presión cívica, la comunidad internacional obligaría al régimen de Assad a comenzar los cambios y a hacer los cambios políticos.
At that point, our price tag was 15,000 dead, 200,000 arrested.
15,000. Hasta ese momento habían asesinado a 15,000 personas al régimen y había 200,000 y había 200,000 encarcelados.
In late 2011, there was formed what is called the Free Syrian Army, which is basically the soldiers and the generals who defected from the regime and who refused to fire on civilians, left the army and formed their own groups in goal of protecting those civil protests.
A finales del 2011 comenzó a organizarse el Ejército Sirio Libre, cuando los generales y los soldados que rehusaban participar en las masacres contra el pueblo comenzaron a organizarse para luchar en contra del régimen en diferentes puntos de Siria.
However, this Free Syrian Army did not receive the support and the means to defend those civilians, and the regime continued with their brutal killing of the civilian people using arms from Russia, from Iran, and even using other militias, terrorist militias like Hezbollah from Lebanon.
Lamentablemente, el Ejército Sirio Libre no recibió los equipos que necesitaba para defender a la población civil, y el régimen de Assad continuó el genocidio contra la población siria con las armas rusas, con las armas iraníes y con la presencia de las milicias terroristas de Hezbollah.
So today we're talking about 60% of the country is out of the control of Assad, what we call it a free Syria, with a price tag of 200,000 dead and almost 200,000 detainees.
Hoy por hoy el 60% de Siria ha sido liberada de Assad con el costo de 200,000 muertos y 200,000 presos.
For the international community, those numbers are unreal or intolerable. Our conscience cannot tolerate to see hundreds of thousands of people dying The solution for that is that the United Nations decided to stop counting the victims of the Syrian people.
Para la comunidad internacional es inaceptable o es muy incómodo esa cantidad de muertos. Y la solución a la cual llegó las Naciones Unidas fue dejar de contar los muertos.
This was announced in January of 2014.
En enero del 2014, Naciones Unidas anunció de que iba a dejar de contar los muertos en Siria.
The regime started using chemical weapons against civilians on a low scale. We have reported that, documented that, and informed the U.S. administration with multiple occasions where the Syrian regime have used chemical weapons.
En ese momento el régimen sirio comenzó a utilizar armas químicas en contra de la población. Nosotros, como médicos, hemos documentado todas las instancias de uso de armas químicas en contra de la población y se lo hemos reportado, se lo hemos informado a las autoridades norteamericanas.
Finally, in July of last year, the U.S. administration officially acknowledged, and it was the last country actually in the Western Hemisphere to acknowledge that Assad regime is responsible for the use of chemical weapons.
En julio del año pasado, los Estados Unidos se convirtió en el último país occidental en reconocer que el régimen de Assad utilizaba armas químicas en contra de la población civil.
This initially was labeled as the famous red line for President Obama that he set for President Assad, that has been crossed a dozen of times. As lately as 2 days ago, there was 3 attacks on 3 areas in Syria with chemical weapons.
Esta es la famosa línea roja del presidente Obama, que desde entonces Assad se ha encargado de cruzarla por lo menos una docena de veces, entre ellas hace 2 días cuando volvieron a utilizar armas químicas en contra de la población.
2 very important points I would like to point out in regard to the Syrian revolution and which becomes the Syrian conflict. Number 1 is the role of Al-Qaeda in that conflict. This has been very a confusing subject, and people always ask what does Al-Qaeda do or on which side they fight.
Yo quiero aclarar el rol en el conflicto en Siria de Al-Qaeda, porque la gente está confundida sobre del lado de quién está peleando Al-Qaeda. O Al-Qaeda, ¿no?
So let's start. In Syria, there is no Al-Qaeda. I mean, there is no heaven for Al-Qaeda. It all started in 2003, where Assad regime appointed one of his security officer. His name is Mahmoud Kol Agassi, or Abu Kaka. This guy started recruiting young men and opened training camps to fight the American forces in Iraq.
In the free area, right? What you're saying?
No, this is 2003.
No, but right now the free area is not the... So you're saying it's on the same story?
No, we're going history.
Okay. Lo que quiero decir es que la presencia de Al-Qaeda comenzó en el 2003 cuando el régimen de Assad nombró a uno de sus oficiales de inteligencia, Abu Bakr, para que comenzara a reclutar jóvenes y entrenarlos para pelear en contra de los Estados Unidos en Irak.
Those fighters were sent by the regime to Iraq to fight American soldiers, and thereafter some of them returned to Syria, that the regime arrested them basically and played them as bargaining chips with the U.S. government.
Estos jóvenes fueron enviados a Irak a pelear contra los soldados norteamericanos. Cuando regresaron a Siria de Irak, fueron encarcelados y utilizados por Assad para negociar con el gobierno de los Estados Unidos.
When Assad knew that he's losing the battle and he lost more than half of the country, he lost his control, he released those terrorists from prison. Those terrorists went out to the free area, to the liberated area, and they formed those groups that are affiliated and related to Al-Qaeda.
Cuando Assad se vio perdido, cuando Assad vio que había perdido más de la mitad del país, excarceló a estos terroristas y estos fueron a las zonas liberadas y comenzaron a crear los grupos que ahora están identificados con Al-Qaeda.
Those terrorists that were released from Syria joined with another 500 Al-Qaeda terrorists that were also escaped from prison in Iraq, in Baghdad.
Esos terroristas escarcelados por Assad se unieron a otros 500 terroristas que, entre comillas, se habían escapado de una cárcel en Bagdad.
So today, the Syrian people and the Free Syrian Army is fighting on two fronts, fighting the regime on one front and fighting Al-Qaeda on the other front. To be fair, Al-Qaeda now they're interested in the oil field. They're fighting among each other. They're becoming multiple groups, and all what they care about is to have the money that the oil brings.
El pueblo sirio y el ejército sirio libre están peleando contra el régimen de Assad y contra Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda lo que le interesa son los pozos petroleros y el dinero que sale de ahí, y entre ellos mismos han comenzado a pelear.
The other subject that I would like to clarify also the minority and their situation in Syria. Syria is a 9,000-year-old country. It has the oldest known inhabitant city in the world, which is the city of Aleppo, where I came from. Syria has always been the heart of the ancient world. Any civilization cannot survive without conquering Syria. That's why we have a very mixed cultures, very mixed religions, very mixed nationalities, ethnicities. Syria is it's a mixing pot of the whole world.
Quiero hablar sobre las minorías en Siria. Siria es un territorio político que lleva 9.000 años constituido. Tiene la ciudad habitada más antigua del mundo, que es Alepo, donde yo soy. Siria siempre ha sido un lugar indispensable para conquistar en todo imperio, en toda civilización. Y Siria es un conjunto de razas, de religiones y de grupos étnicos.
Throughout these centuries and these thousands of years, we have been living together. We are very mixed. We are very used to accept each other, regardless of our religion. You can think about Syria just like the United States now. This is how we feel, and this is how we live. So all those accusations that the oppositions are trying to, kill Christians or minorities or Alawites or Armenians or all of these, all are propaganda that has been proven day after day that is untrue.
La población siria es una población integrada por diferentes religiones, diferentes grupos, diferentes etnias, y toda esta propaganda de que la oposición mata a los cristianos, mata a los alawitas, mata a las minorías, es falsa.
And to here, I would like to thank you all for your good listening. Thank you.
Excellent.